Hello and welcome to this lesson where we're going to take a look at spawning the aliens in waves. So we'll end up with this survival situation where the player has to survive as many waves as possible from the swarming aliens. Now, because we're going to be spawning the aliens in as waves, we don't want the aliens to exist in our level to begin with, so let's remove all the aliens that we've placed in our level. We can multi-select them in the world outliner and then we can hit the delete key. Okay, so first we have to figure out where we want the aliens to spawn during the wave. To do this, we're going to be placing down spawn points using Unreal's target point actor. Unreal's target point actor is a very simple actor. It's just an actor that we can move around in the level that has an icon assigned to it, and that's all it is. It doesn't have any other specific behavior at all. So this is going to be perfect for us to use as the spawn points for the alien. We want the aliens to swarm the player from all directions, so we're going to want to place spawn points outside and around the main play area of the level. So to find the target point actor, we can come to the mode panel and we can type and search for it. We can get the target point and we can click and drag it into the level. So right now I want you to pause here and place down target point actors in and around your level so we can use them as the spawn points for the aliens. And make sure that the spawn points are inside the navigation mesh in your level. If the alien spawns outside the nav mesh, it won't be able to move. So pause here to set up your spawn points and then we'll take a look at spawning the aliens in waves. Okay, so I've placed some target point actors around my level that I can use as spawn points for the aliens, and I've also made sure that the target points are within the nav mesh. Remember, you can press P to toggle the visibility of the nav mesh. And just to let you know, you can also change how large the icon is for a target point by adjusting the editor billboard scale in the details panel when you have a target point selected. Okay, so for each wave, we want there to be a limit to how many aliens spawn, and then as we complete each wave, we want more and more aliens to spawn. But where are we going to start coding all this wave spawning logic? Well, we're going to code it inside our Mars Marine game mode. So let's open this up. When you open it up, you might see a window like this, but we want to open the full blueprint editor for this. Our first objective is to have a variable that contains what the current wave is, and we're also going to display this on the player's HUD. So let's create a new variable, and let's call this current wave, and let's make sure that this variable is of type integer. And we can hit compile. We're also going to create a new function called setupNewWave, and inside this function, we're going to get the current wave and we're going to increase the value of the wave by 1. So we're going to just drag it out and put in the plus symbol and we're just going to increment it. We're going to be adding more code to this, but for now we're going to come back to the event graph and we're going to say on begin play when the game starts, we're going to delay by, let's say, 2 seconds, just a short little time here, and then we're going to set up a new wave. And this is just going to increase the current wave. So it's not doing much right now, but we're going to come back to our level. We're going to come to the UI folder in the content browser and then open up the player HUD. Now we're going to add in a new text block so we can come to the palette and drag out a new text block. We're going to place this on the top center of the player's HUD. So let's set the anchor point to the top. Let's just drag out the text here a bit and let's customize what the text is going to say. It's going to say something like wave 7 if we were on wave 7. We're going to set up a binding for this in a second, but let's just set up the text. We want to change the text justification so it's always in the center, and we kind of just want to line it up with the center of the anchor point. And we can also change the font color here. I'm just going to change it to a nice bright blue. Okay. Now let's set up a new binding for this. We're going to create a new binding. We're going to change the function name to update current wave. Now to update the current wave, we are going to right click and call the function named getGameMode. So we can get the game mode, but first we have to cast it to our Mars Marine game mode so we can gain access to its variables and functions. And with the reference pin on the cast, we can drag this out and we can get the current wave. Now we don't want to plug this straight into the text right now. We're going to drag out from the text and we're going to convert the text to a string, which allows us to append the string. So we can create a string that says wave and we can add a space here and then plug the value of the current wave into the second input. And we can hook up the cast to the return node. Okay, so we get the current wave from our Mars Marine game mode, and we set up some text which displays it. And it's already bound to our text block on the UI here. So we can come back to the level, and we should see now when we hit play, we can see it displays the wave, and after 2 seconds, the wave increases. Now we're going to make it so as soon as the wave increases, we start spawning the aliens and they start running towards the player. But there's something we need to understand first about spawning AI. When we manually place character blueprints into the level and start the game, if the character is not already possessed by a player, an AI controller will automatically spawn and possess the character. But if we spawn a character blueprint at runtime, an AI controller does not spawn and possess the character automatically. So this is going to be an issue when we spawn our aliens because by default they won't have an AI controller. So to fix this, I want you to pause here and open up your AI blueprint and try find the setting in the class defaults that you can change that adjusts the behavior of possessing AI. Okay, so I hope you found it. If you come inside your alien blueprint, when you have the class default selected, you can see there is a auto possess AI setting. By default, it's set to placed in world. We can simply drop this down and change it to placed in world or spawned. This means when we spawn this AI character now, a controller will automatically spawn and possess it. Okay, so let's compile and save this blueprint and close it to come back to our game mode. We're going to create a new function called spawn alien. Inside this function, we want to spawn an alien randomly at one of the target points we placed in our level. So we're going to create another new function, and we're going to call this getRandomSpawnPoint. Inside this function, we're going to call the getAllActorsOfClass function. We are going to want to get all the target point actors, and this returns an array of all the target point actors that exist in our level. We can drag out from the array pin, and we can use an array function called get. This allows us to provide an index to get an element of the array of target points. Now we want to get a random element, so we're going to drag out from the index. We're going to type in random integer, and we're going to get the random integer in range function. We want the range to go between 0 and the last index in the array. We can drag out from the array, and we can call the last index array function. We're going to use the last index as the maximum range input. So this will now get a random target point that exists in our level, and we want to return the result here. So we're going to add a return node. We're going to drag and drop the pin onto the return node, and we can just call the output pin spawn point. And let's make sure that we hook up all the execution pins in here. Okay, so this is this function complete. We can hit compile, and we can come back to our spawn alien function. Inside this function, we can call the getRandomSpawnPoint function. So when we spawn an alien, we get a random spawn point. We can check if the spawn point is valid. We always want to make sure that the spawn point is valid before we use it. And if it is valid, we can then call the spawn actor from class node. We can spawn our alien class, so we're going to search for the BP alien. And we have to provide the spawn transform. We're going to provide the transform of our random spawn point. So dragging out from the spawn point, we can call the getActorTransform function. Okay, so this spawn alien function is now going to spawn an alien at a random target point in our level, and the alien should start running towards the player and attacking them straight away. But we're not yet calling this function in our code anywhere yet. Let's hit compile and save, and let's come back to the event graph. We're going to create a new custom event. We're going to right click and come to add event, and we can select add custom event. We're going to name this spawn wave. When we spawn a wave, we're going to call spawn alien. Okay, it looks very simple, but we're going to call the spawn wave custom event on a timer. Let's head inside the setup new wave function. Inside this function, we are going to call the set timer by function name. The function name is going to be the name of our custom event, which was spawn wave, and we're going to loop it and call spawn wave every second. Okay, so this means that when we set up a new wave, we increase the current wave number, which will increase the value on the player's HUD, and then every second we're going to start spawning aliens to run towards the player. So let's save all, let's hit Control, Shift and S, and let's come back to our level to test this out. When we play the game now, and when a new wave starts, the aliens are going to endlessly spawn every second and come and attack the player. So we're almost there, and in the next lesson, we're going to limit how many aliens are in each wave. And we're also going to make it more difficult for each wave. We're going to increase how many aliens spawn in each wave. So that wraps up this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so we're going to be wrapping up spawning the aliens in waves in this lesson. We've got a few objectives. We want to keep track of how many aliens are currently alive during a wave. And we also want to limit how many aliens can spawn during a wave. And with both of these, we're going to be able to tell when there's no aliens remaining during a wave. So to end a wave, we want to make sure that no aliens are alive and that the aliens have no spawns remaining. To wrap up our wave spawning, we want to add a difficulty feature. The game should start easy with less aliens, and then with each wave, more and more aliens should spawn, making it harder for the player to survive. So let's start with our first objective of keeping track of how many aliens are alive. To do this, we're going to add each alien to an array when they are spawned. The length of the array will be able to tell us how many aliens are currently alive in the level. But we need to make sure that we remove the aliens from the array when they are killed. So your first challenge right now is to head inside your Mars Marine game mode and create a new variable called aliens. Make it a BP alien object reference and make sure it's an array. We will use this array to store the aliens that are currently alive. To do this, whenever you spawn an alien, add the alien that gets spawned to the array. Okay, so pause here to set up the code to add your aliens to an array when they spawn. Okay, so I've created a new BP alien array just named aliens inside my game mode. Whenever we spawn an alien, we want to add them to this array. So let's enter the spawn alien function inside our game mode. We spawn the alien, we can check if it's valid first, so we can call the isValid macro. So if it is valid, we can then get our aliens array, and we can add the alien that gets spawned to the array. To do this, we can drag out from the array and call the add function, and we can provide the spawned alien as the element we want to add to the array. Okay, but we want to make sure that when we kill an alien, we remove it from this aliens array. So we're going to create a new function, and we're going to name it something like register alien death. We want to call this function when an alien dies. When they die, we will get our alien array, and then we're going to remove the alien that died. We're going to call the remove item function on the array. We're going to drag the input pin for the item onto the function entry node. So this creates a new input parameter. Let's make sure the execution pin is hooked up. We're going to rename the input parameter to alien. So this will add an input pin when the function is called, so we can provide the alien that we want to remove from the array. And this is all we're going to do in the function for now. We can hit compile and save, and we can head over to the alien blueprint. We call kill AI when the alien dies. Now we can come inside this function, and we can make it so whenever we kill the alien, we register the alien's death. To do this, we are going to get the game mode. We're going to cast it to the Mars Marine game mode. We're going to hook up the execution pin, and because we cast it to the Mars Marine game mode, we can use the reference pin to gain access to its functions. We're going to call our register alien death function, and we can see here we can provide an alien. We're going to use self as this input. So this means that whenever this alien blueprint is killed, we register its death in the game mode. So with all the code that we've just set up, it now allows us to keep track of how many aliens are alive by adding them and removing them to the array in the game mode. Our next step now is to limit how many aliens can spawn in a wave. And I want you to get us started with this one too. Inside your Mars Marine game mode, create a new variable of type integer and set a default value for it. This will be the limit on how many spawns the aliens have. And then whenever you spawn an alien, decrease the amount of spawns the aliens have. So pause here to do this, because once we have this set up, we can move on to ending and completing waves. Okay, so I hope you had a go at this. You should now have a new variable inside your Mars Marine game mode that we can use to store how many spawns the aliens have in a wave. Now I've set a default value of 10 for this. And we want to decrease this value whenever we spawn an alien. So inside the spawn alien function in the game mode, after we spawn an alien, we check to see if it's valid, and then we add them to the array. But after this, we're going to get how many spawns they have remaining, and we're going to decrease it by 1. We're going to call the decrement int function. So we decrease how many spawns they have, then we're going to check to see if their spawns are equal to 0. Okay, so we now spawn an alien, we add them to the array to say that they are alive, but if they have no spawns remaining, we're going to want to stop them from spawning. Remember, in the event graph, we have our spawn wave custom event, which executes our spawn alien function. This event is called on a timer. So to stop them from spawning, we're going to clear the timer. We're going to drag out from the true output of the branch and call clear timer by function name. The function name is the name of the event, which is spawn wave. Okay, so now whenever we spawn an alien, we decrease the amount of spawns they have, and then we stop the timer from executing if they have no spawns remaining. Awesome, so let's compile and save our work, and let's come back to the level to try this out. So we have to wait a few seconds for the wave to start, then the aliens are going to spawn and start chasing the player. Now if they seem like they're taking a while to get to you, you can always move the spawn points closer. So we should start killing the aliens, and once we kill them all, we should only have 10 kills. And for me, once we reach 10 kills, the aliens should stop spawning. And I'm at 10 kills now, and the aliens no longer spawn because we limit how many spawns they have in the wave. Now the next step is to end the wave if the aliens have no spawns remaining and if we've killed every alien in the level. Then we can wait a few seconds before starting a new wave. So we're going to start this by creating a new custom event inside the event graph of our game mode. This event is going to be called end wave. Whenever end wave is executed, we are going to delay by, let's say, 2 seconds for now. Then we are simply going to start a new wave by calling setup new wave. Now we want to make it so when we kill every alien in the level and when the aliens have no spawns remaining, we're going to execute end wave and then delay by 2 seconds and then start a new wave. To call end wave when this happens, we're going to enter the register alien death function. Once an alien dies, we remove them from the aliens array. We're going to check if the array is empty once we do this. So let's get the array. We're going to drag it out and call the array length function. And we can check to see if it's equal to 0. But we're going to drag out the Boolean result of this and type in AND. We're going to get the AND Boolean function. We only want to end the wave if there's no aliens remaining in a level and if the alien spawns remaining is equal to 0. Now we can use a branch with this, and this can be our condition. We're going to collapse all of this down into a function, and we're going to name this isWaveComplete. This is going to be a pure const function. So now whenever any alien dies and we register their death, we check to see if the wave is complete. If it is complete, we're going to call our end wave custom event. So once an alien is killed, we register their death by removing them from the array of aliens that exist in the level. Then we check to see if every alien in the level is dead and if there's no more aliens in this wave. If this is true, we then end the wave. Okay, so let's try this out. Let's hit compile and save. Let's come back to our level and hit play. So once a wave starts, aliens will start spawning in and then running towards the player. Once we kill all of the aliens in a wave and they run out of spawns, the wave will end, and then after a short delay, a new wave will start. Then the same thing happens again, so we have a loop now that aliens will keep coming until we wipe out the wave, and then the next wave will start. Awesome, so we're really close to having our AI wave spawning complete. Our next step is to add a difficulty feature. We want to make it so each wave spawns more and more aliens, making it harder for the player to survive as each wave goes on. To do this, we're going to create a new function in our game mode, and we're going to call this increase wave difficulty. We're going to start with a difficulty value. When we execute increase wave difficulty, we're going to take the difficulty and multiply it by another value we will call difficulty multiplier. So as an example, if we had 5 aliens, then we multiplied them by 1.5, we would end up with 7.5 aliens. Now of course we can't spawn 7.5 aliens, so we're going to round the result. So basically, we're going to take the difficulty value every wave and multiply it by the difficulty multiplier. Then we're going to use the result as the amount of spawns the aliens will have in the wave. This means that the waves are going to become more and more increasingly difficult. Let's create a new variable and let's call this wave difficulty. This is going to be an integer. We can compile and set a default value. I recommend using 5 to begin with. Then let's add another new variable called difficulty multiplier. This is going to be a float. We're going to compile and assign a default value to this. I'm going to use 1.5. I'd recommend using 1.5 as well to begin with. The difficulty multiplier is really going to affect how hard your game is. The higher this difficulty multiplier, the harder the game is going to be. Inside the increase wave difficulty function, we're going to get the wave difficulty. We're going to multiply it by a float. We're going to multiply it by our difficulty multiplier. Then we're going to round it. Once we've rounded this value, we can set the wave difficulty. So this means that every time this function executes, we're going to take the wave difficulty and multiply it to make it a larger value. But we're going to take the wave difficulty and use it as the amount of spawns the aliens will have. So let's grab our alien spawns remaining. Let's drag it out onto the graph and let's use a set. We're going to use the wave difficulty as the amount of spawns that the aliens are going to have in the wave. Okay, and that's our function complete. We can hit compile and we can decide where we're going to place this function. We're going to execute it inside the setup new wave function when we start a new wave. We can actually rename this function just to be consistent. This is going to be start new wave. So inside this function, when we start a new wave, before we start spawning the wave, we are going to increase the wave difficulty. Okay, so we can hit compile, we can hit save, we can come back to our level and play the game. Okay, so you'll notice now that as you complete waves, you're going to have to keep killing more and more aliens. Now, if you wanted to make the base game difficulty even harder, there's one final thing we can do. We can promote the time on our spawn wave timer to a variable named spawn frequency. Instead of being 1 second, we can lower the time it takes between each alien spawning. You'll notice that it makes more aliens appear at once and making the game even harder. So it's up to you to tweak and tune the difficulty parameters of your game. Have fun and take some time to tune your game before moving on to the next lesson.